just gonna make this video again. Look, it is bad enough than whatever has been going on for the last 5, going on 6 years now, has seen to it that that I'm conscious of somebody else's account as like the primary account for my life and what I do, as if I'm an underlying in some sort of derivative or securitization process. And so what I do gets abstracted so that somebody else can actually engage with it and instantiate it in their life, including after they may have swapped it with somebody else, or they may have inverted it or inverse indexed it, and or done one of those central counterparty things where you present something and then they receive it and then they do things with it that they want. And this has been going on for a while, right? And it's very comprehensive. But the worst part is when it tries to supplant the fact that I've actually been subjected to religious and spiritual persecution with and in the stead of my efforts at due process. So far as I know, under the Texas Constitution, there is no religious test required for access to the public trust, which also includes access to due process. And that really should be all I have to say. Right now, I have some time alone. I'm trying to figure out how to deal with comprehensive trauma while I'm also trying to figure out what to do about the fact that my electronic accounts are being used by other people that I guess are trying to accomplish some sort of political goal without actually responding in manners that would be legally accountable as people representing American citizens. And in the course of that, if I try to do something for myself, up to and including potentially a spiritual study, I end up getting caught in some sort of transactional process that is incredibly persecutorial. This is the second day in a row where I've been doing some study, and I made a video about it because there's a lot going on. And again, it seems that the consideration of whether or not I have legitimacy is about me agreeing to accept that I have an error or that I am at fault because I will not convert. It is one thing if you say that I'm in a forum and the terms of the forum are in one particular understanding. But if I go in and say, I understand I'm a guest because I understand there are laws and rules here that are for people that have or are a part of this spiritual tradition, but I am not. I am here in an interfaith exchange or in a manner of attempting to address what I understand is a claim presented within this frame of reference. You don't have a right to go through that process and then at the end try to get me to confirm that I'm going to let you engage in what I understand to be an act of religious persecution, or you're going to punish me in my actual secular life by violating my constitutional rights again in ways that are actually incomprehensible when it comes to the letter of the law, in a manner that I understand is specifically about the fact that you are trying to cover up for a very specific and vicious form of religious persecution. I'm not going to do that. I have no problem engaging authentically with people around their faith traditions. If there is some understanding of concurrent jurisdictions based upon faith study or study of religious or other codes of consideration, including the fact that for 25 years I've been forced into a situation where rather than getting to study in the faith tradition that I would prefer and that I am committed to working toward, I'm put in a situation where I'm denied any due process and I have to supplant my own spiritual needs by trying to go through the court process to represent myself, because nobody will do their job and uphold their duty to apply the Constitution when it comes to consideration of matters related to me and what I am dealing with. And that doesn't seem to matter whether it's in a spiritual systematology or whether it's in a formal judicial, supposedly secular systematology. There's no justification for that. There's no reason that if I have to wait for the wheels of justice to turn in order to get my day in court, my actual day in court, by the way, not whatever that one time sort of really, really horrible act was, right? My actual day in court, that's one thing. But why do you have all these transactions going on that are completely sabotaging my actual life? and then piggybacking off of me trying to do some sort of faith-based study. And fortunately, because I'm still inside, I'm not required to go to a Christian service provider. And then waving a tax off onto or through me that sees to it that I'm crying again for 20 minutes, only to find out you've sent me another frivolous, inexplicable, incomprehensible response from somebody that's not actually legally eligible, but under the auspices that somehow she's connected to a pseudo juridical religious process that's going on when I'm trying to do personal faith study. See, nobody's actually treated me with any sort of dignity. And this doesn't even sound like a FISA proceeding. This sounds like people engaged in some form of ritual persecution of somebody in a completely unconstitutional and very, very dangerous manner. And so you're going to have to figure this out, because if you keep doing this again, then every single thing you do without applying literal standards of the law that makes sense under the law appears to be a death threat. And it appears to be a death threat because I will not comply with your efforts to try to engage in acts of religious persecution that not only target me, by the way, but target other people under auspices that you have some sort of pseudo religious authority to actually chastise and punish people by denying them access to resources in their real life based upon how you want them to respond to a persecutorial religious test, including a persecutorial religious test based on a religion that is not their own. Right? And in the course of this, you actually keep me from being able to do things to take care of myself, either in my literal life or in my personal spiritual life. And it's gone on way, way, way too long.